You know what's great about college football? Everyone thinks you're an expert until week one kicks off.
That's because every fan enters the season undefeated, Matt.
Yeah, and hope is undefeated.
Yeah, your team has a new
Everybody
quarterback.
hopes they're going to win.
Yeah,
Right.
Your team, a new offensive coordinator, maybe a transfer class that's best in the country. And somehow, this is finally your year.
Yeah, until about the third Saturday in September rolls around, then they really find out what their team's made of. Well, today we're making our predictions for the 2026 college football season. Some of these will age really well.
And some of these will come back to haunt us, like Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger, okay. Well, welcome back to Life on Record, the podcast where we laugh so we don't cry about our soul-crushing realities. So today's episode, we're going to start out with why college football is different than any other sport. And we told you that on this podcast, we're going to talk about sports, especially as we get towards the fall. It is now August, and let's talk about football. So, Kenny, what makes college football better than every other sport?
Well, this probably only pertains to a small section of the country. I believe, especially since I live out here in Colorado, a lot of people don't give a shit about college football, I've noticed. But for those of us that do, what makes it great or better than any other sport, in my opinion, is the passion, the traditions. Despite what dude says about the Masters, this is a tradition like any other.
The tradition.
Rivalries, of course.
The rivalries. I like
the
that.
bands, even. There's some pretty awesome bands
do
out
you
there.
have college students during the game and at halftime going out and showing the world that they're a professional in something too, like playing an instrument? And then it's just the music keeps you pumped up and they keep the crowd going. So, yeah, I like the bands too.
And for some teams and universities, it's the best part about their college football team is their band, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't forget the stadiums. I mean, there's nothing really like 100,000 people singing the same song. That's pretty inspiring and just fun. Just all out fun.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times, too, if you plan it out right, you can do a little tailgating before the game, hang out in the parking lot or in an area that's set up for tailgating. You can
Play
talk
some
to people
cornhole.
you don't know, friends, play cornhole, eat food, watch other games. So say you're there for a night game, you can watch some of the college games during the day. You got the student section where that's all they're there to do is to cheer on the team and to go out and help them be successful and them win. That is so cool about the student sections. And depending on what college you go to, the student sections could be different. Like at Alabama, the college student section, the college students there will dress up. They'll wear a suit and tie, nice dresses. The girls will, and the guys will wear the suit and tie, which is kind of interesting. Or they'll wear the suspenders with like a farmer thing going on, or they'll be painted in their team colors. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that you get to see in the student sections. I think that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, I'd have to disagree with you on the whole suit and the student section thing. But
When you talk about at Auburn, some of them dress up like that too. Although they will
a lot of
down with
times
the suspenders
it's
and
usually what I've seen. It's during rush, like for fraternities. So you have guys that are pledging fraternities that are dressed up, maybe because they have to. That's part of their hazing ritual, whatever. They make the pledges dress up in a suit, which that's not really hazing, I guess, but it can be when it's 100 degrees and 120% humidity out. But yeah, so you see those early on in the season, at the beginning of the football season, not so much later on in the year with the dressing.
All right. So let's get into one of what I think is going to be the best topics of this podcast, and that's the biggest storylines going on now in college football. So if you're listening to the media, if you're watching ESPN, if you are keeping track with the broadcasts on each network for the different colleges and the different conferences, or you're just reading some articles online. These are some of the biggest storylines that we're following in college football right now. And the first storyline we're going to talk about is quarterback transfers. So it's been called one of the wildest QB transfer cycles ever, with NIL salaries pushing into the 500 million plus range for some players, which is crazy if you think about it. So we've got some of these players that have transferred to teams that have high expectations, like Josh Hoover. He's transferring from TCU and he's going to Indiana to replace Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winning national championship quarterback at Indiana. So how do you replace somebody like that, Kenny? I don't know. That's a hard road to follow.
Yeah, that's a tough task. I wouldn't want to be him. But, I mean, you never know. With Curt Cignetti, he's proven that he can take guys and turn them into Heisman candidates or Heisman winning quarterbacks. And I think this first year for him there will be a little rocky. I don't think they'll have the success that they had last year. They have a lot of players that moved on either to the NFL or graduated or whatever. Now, I mean, guys playing 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, they probably already graduated, but their eligibility is gone, if there is such a thing anymore in college football or college sports. So they had to replace a lot of people this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how that turns out. I kind of, we can talk about it a little later, but I don't see them. To me, they got a little lucky last year on a few games, as you need to make that run.
Yeah, you got to come back and win some games to prove yourself.
Yeah, so
as a team,
I think they're as a whole they'll take a step back this year. He'll probably have a decent season in that system, but there'll be some games that they won last year they won't win this year, and they'll come back down to reality a little this year. So we'll
see.
My take on that guy.
Well, there's a few other people on the college quarterback transfer portal highlights. So Sam Leavitt left Arizona State. He's off to LSU and going to be playing for Lane Kiffin. So kind of that run and gun, crazy offense that Lane Kiffin likes to run. So we'll see how well LSU does. We've got Darren Mensah, who left Duke for Miami. So Miami's like, hey, we made it to the college football national championship game. Let's go out and get the best accurate pocket passer quarterback available. And he's got a little bit of wheels too. So similar to what they had last year at Miami, but hopefully he'll help Miami reach the college football national title game.
Yeah, probably a little bit more athletic than Carson Beck, I would say.
Yeah. But hey, Beck took him to the national championship, which, by the way, that was his second time playing in the national championship. And he did what? Lost both of them. So maybe Darren can actually win something this time.
Yeah, maybe, but
yeah,
we'll see. We'll see for sure.
Yep. So here's a couple other starters that left their school and followed their coach because their coach left the current program they were at the program they were at last year and then moved to a new school. One of those is Byron Brown. He moved to Auburn, your favorite school, following his coach there. So we'll see how Byron Brown does at Auburn this year. Drew Messmaker went to Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State was terrible last year. I think they only had like 2 wins, something crazy like that. Very bad. Their coach had got fired the previous year. Now they have a new coach. So he's coming in as a transfer that's supposed to do well. Rocco Beck went to Penn State. Penn State played really well last year until later in the season when they ran into Indiana and Ohio State and some of these other schools. They just couldn't compete in the same conference. Then we've got Dylan Raiola, who went from playing really well in Nebraska to now at Oregon. And he might be a backup because Deontay Moore decided to stay at Oregon. So I don't know what's going on there. 3-year starter. He started as a freshman and then he transfers to Oregon, and now he's probably going to have to sit out. So don't know what's going to happen there. I predict that one of them will leave before the season starts. Like, there's no
Really?
way he's going to just stick around. Yeah. Why would he
Well,
stick around? Either one of them's going to leave or one of them's going to get hurt or something. Like, I don't think they're both going to stay and just be like both playing, and hopefully whoever keeps the starting. But Dante Moore was a starter last year. He should have went in the draft, but he didn't. He chose to stay. Maybe there was something in the draft that he didn't like, but you got two
you can make
essentially
more money
5-star
staying.
quarterbacks on the same team with the same experience. Dante Moore's got like 1 year, I think, more than him, but it's weird.
Yeah, that is a little strange and something I was not aware of as I've gone through my studies of college football this year. So that's interesting and something to keep an eye on as the season progresses. I believe Dante Moore will start from day one, and Oregon will be competing to get back in the college playoff and possibly a college national championship run. So, yeah, that's going to be really interesting to watch. It makes me more intrigued about Oregon now than I ever have been. Just to see how that pans out. If, like you said, if Moore gets injured and the other one just like a small injury that takes him out for a game or a half or something, and then what's his name again? Raiola, right?
Raiola.
Yeah,
Raiola.
Oh, DR. If he's able to come in and step up and do a good job, I mean, there may be a controversy on their hands early on in Eugene, so we'll have to check that out as the season progresses. But or like you said, he may just decide, screw this, I'm gonna transfer. But I don't think you're allowed to transfer. There's no portal open now, so he wouldn't be able to go anywhere. I could be wrong.
Yeah, he would have to sit out. Exactly.
I don't think player.
Yeah,
I think
don't
at
know
this
if he
point,
would use a year or what, but
again, like I said, I could be wrong. I could be confusing with college basketball, but I don't think they can go anywhere now. It may be too late. So
yeah. I mean, Raiola's got a big arm. He brings a lot to the table to this team, and it makes you wonder if they brought him in as the heir apparent replacement, and then Moore's like, "Oh no, I'm not going. I'm not going to the NFL, so I'm coming back," and they're going to be pushing each other throughout the whole season. And it's definitely going to be interesting to see, especially with Dan Lanning there leading the charge and who's going to be the best player. You've got Raiola, who's would throw for more yards and probably more touchdowns than Deontay Moore. Deontay Moore's more of a game manager. He's going to run a lot more, things like that. Maybe that's going to open it up, but maybe they're both going to play. I don't know, but as of now, we really don't know much what's going on at Oregon, with the exception of that they have two potential 5-star starters that could be NFL quarterbacks in the future.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull up their schedule real quick because I'm interested to see.
Okay.
I'm interested to see if possibly, like you said, maybe they'll get them both some reps early in the season.
Early in the season, yeah.
That's a possibility. So,
yep. And then the last kind of storyline around these quarterbacks is, you probably, for those of you listening, you probably heard what happened with Texas Tech's quarterback, Brandon Sorsby. If you remember, he was denied eligibility to play in college football because he has been gambling on football games. Then he tried to go in the supplemental NFL draft, and the NFL said, well, we're not even going to have a supplemental draft this year, so good luck, Brendan Sorsby. Nobody wants to be on your team. So, and now the Texas Tech Red Raiders are back to Will Hammond, their quarterback that they had the previous year as the backup. So we'll see what happens at Texas Tech. They've always had a really good defense, and then we'll see how they carry on.
I believe they're favored to win the Big 12 this year. And even with the quarterback situation unknown, I mean, like you said, their defense is going to be stout. They have a good offensive line. They should be able to run the ball really well. So, yeah, whoever steps in at quarterback, that'll be the X factor this year for them. And like I said, I expect them to win the Big 12. Whether they make the playoff or not is up to the committee, as we've seen. So who knows? But it should be interesting, nonetheless.
Yep. Another big storyline in college football is NIL. It's kind of been going on since last year with the house settlement structure with college football and setting a just over 20 million revenue sharing cap. But it only covers schools that are using direct school to athlete payments. It doesn't cover collectives that are outside of the direct to school payment, the booster program money. All of that stuff is going to push the roster valuations at some of these top schools even higher, such as Texas, Texas A&M, Ohio State, LSU, Miami, Oregon. They're expected to spend more than $50 million this year just in NIL. And then Congress has been pushing a Senate bill. And then just this week, the SEC and Big Ten have now decided to support it, where they weren't supporting it before. Because what it does is it creates kind of like a retention pool of sharing that allows the sharing to go across the conferences. So it really just is about the money to me. I mean, that's what I'm hearing. It's about the money.
It's always been about the money, man.
Right.
I mean,
Unless they have
honest,
something
since the early
that's going to cover revenue sharing yeah, exactly. If it doesn't have options in there for revenue sharing to get split across the conferences and the teams, then some of these bigger teams aren't going to want to be involved in it. So we'll see what happens and see if it's going to work out. But yeah, a lot of money is being spent out there in college. And I mean, they're making money. So this is just in turn the players getting a piece of the pie that they weren't getting previously.
Which I'm all for. It's a little bloated, in my opinion. Obviously, I mean, we have guys trying to get 6th and 7th year eligibility just because they know that they either won't make it in the NFL or they won't even get drafted or whatever. They're just like, well, I know that if I stay here, if I can stay here, I can make as much money as I can. And who knows how much some of these guys, like you said, are making from collectives. And like we don't, I mean, maybe there's a tracker out there somewhere that shows how much each player's making from who, but it is kind of the Wild West out there as far as that goes. Under the table deals are now just out in the open, and it's pretty wild.
Yep. And the last big headlines that are out there now for college football are the conference races that are leading into the playoffs. As we know, the Big Ten is the clear favorite. Indiana won the national championship last year with Ohio State and Oregon, kind of the 2nd and 3 in the power rankings. They only have one loss amongst themselves because they lost to Indiana. So Ohio State opens the year as the number 1 favorite with Oregon and Indiana in that top 5 mix. And then it's followed with SEC school teams such as Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, Missouri, some of the preseason rankings. But as we know, Kenny, preseason rankings mean nothing until around week 8 or 9. So they really shouldn't even have a rank. It should just be, here's the teams, let's let them play and see what happens. And then we'll decide halfway through the season.
Yeah, and I've always been the type to, just because a team from a specific conference won a national championship doesn't mean that conference is the best conference. I still think top to bottom, the SEC is the best. We, for the most part, still get the best players, the best athletes, and have more teams competing toward the end of the season, whether it's the playoff or in the past in important or whatever bowl games. I don't know. I just like, even back when the SEC was dominating national championship after national championship every year, I mean, there's argument that that at the time, back when Texas and Oklahoma were still in the Big 12, that possibly the Big 12 was the best conference. But yeah, there does seem to be a slight shift. However, Ohio State's, for the most part, always been good and competitive. So them winning the national championship is no surprise. They should be competing, whether it's in the semifinal or final every year with the current setup. But Michigan, they essentially cheated to get their national championship. So
hey, they won. They won.
So I don't really count that one. And then Indiana's luck last year, as I mentioned previously, along with it's just kind of the perfect setup, in my opinion, when you have teams that bring in X amount of players that played somewhere else. They're already developed. They didn't have to spend time to develop them. Dabo Swinney is having a hard time developing players now for some reason.
Yeah, Clemson doesn't take transfers. They don't take transfers.
I think this past season was I could be wrong, but usually it's very minimal, like less than 5.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to check the numbers, but he did dip into it a little bit more this previous season, I believe. Yeah, he got a lot of criticism for not wanting to do that. He's just a big believer in building those relationships in high school and then developing the players along the way. But it seems to have hindered Clemson the past few years, and doesn't look good down there in South Carolina for Clemson. But back to Cignetti up in Indiana. I don't know. I mean, we'll just have to wait and see how it all plays out this year and in coming years. Is he the next Nick Saban? Possibly. Or it was a fluke, which I believe it was a fluke. He'll have to prove me wrong, I guess. But this year they should
he has won everywhere he has went. He has won and played well. So we'll see.
Yeah,
and see how long he stays at Indiana. Because if he plays well again this year, makes it to the national championship game, whether he wins or not, that might be his last year at Indiana. He could be going anywhere.
And I'll come back and say I was wrong if that happens. I'll wait. I'm just looking at our future topics here. I might be something I'm bringing up later. No, I don't have it on here, but I think they take a step back this year, don't make the playoff, which isn't really that big of a take considering Ohio State and Michigan should be pretty decent as well this year. Penn State, new coach coming in, they could possibly surprise some people this year. So I think they take a step back, just in my opinion. So
okay,
we'll see.
But let's talk about the playoffs and what's going on with that. So there was no vote, no change for the playoffs this year. So we're still going to have 12 teams for 26, although there's a little bit of change. The Big Ten and the SEC the SEC. The Big Ten and the SEC are still kind of fighting it. They don't like the new format. And the Big Ten wants a 24-team model with multiple automatic qualifiers per conference, where the SEC prefers a 16-team, kind of like a 5+11 format. And the ACC and the Big 12 are also in support of this 16-team format. So this is what changes for this year's playoff. Again, playoff's not expanded. It's still 12 teams, but it's been tweaked a little bit. So this year, the 4 power conference champions are now locked into the field automatically. So if you win the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC, or the Big 12, you're automatically in the championship.
Well, then that
process. You're
I stand
already
corrected
in the
on
playoffs.
Texas Tech. Then they will make the playoff because I said earlier
they're going to win
that
the Big 12.
They would win the Big 12, but maybe not even make it into the playoff. That's just my ignorance. So they'll make it in, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, so you could have 6 wins and win the conference championship, I guess. I don't know. But that's crazy. And the rest of the field. So now we've got 4. We've got 4 of the 12.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to get 8 more. So then it goes to the highest rank group of 6 team. So whoever is the highest rank in the group of 6 conferences will get a bid. Okay. Then Notre Dame, this is crazy, gets a guaranteed spot if it finishes in the committee's top 12. So all they have to do is finish in the top 12 and they automatically get in the playoffs. Interesting.
Yeah, they got screwed last year. We all know they got screwed. They did have a bad loss, but
yeah, I think Notre Dame needs to get in a freaking conference for college football. They're in a conference for everything else. Just get in a conference. Prove yourself in conference games.
They don't want to share. They don't want to share that money they get from NBC.
Yeah.
So
they get a lot of.
Goes back to money.
Those games that they're playing, and they're usually playing against tough teams. But we know what happens to Notre Dame when they get in the spotlight. Just look at the Alabama game against them in the national championship game. They got crushed.
14 years ago.
What, Notre Dame, good luck. We'll see what happens.
That was 14 years ago. What has Alabama done lately? I mean, I'm one to talk. I'm an Auburn fan.
They've won some national championships since then, though, too. So,
yeah.
All right. So let's get into our next segment. What are some college teams to watch this year? So there are a lot of preseason watch lists out there. You've got your magazines and everything that people are calling out. So here are my top 3 contenders for this year. And I've got, number 1, I've got Texas. Why Texas? Well, let's see. They have Arch Manning. If you got Manning on the back of your jersey, you got to be watching that team regardless. But they've got big, tall, strong man Cam Coleman transferring from Auburn to Texas, potentially to be their number 1 wide receiver. And then they've got a great pass rusher in Colin Simmons, who it will help drive the Texas defense. So we'll see if Manning will be the best QB in the nation. Maybe he'll win the Heisman. Maybe he'll deliver them a national championship. But we'll see. But playing in the SEC, it's always going to be hard. My next contender, and then I'll let you kind of follow up with this, Kenny, is Indiana. They won the national championship. Of course, they have to be one of the best teams in the country coming in for the preseason. You can't count them out. They won the national championship. They've got Josh Hoover transferring from TCU to take over as starting quarterback. And they've got Kurt Signetti. It's, what does he do? All he does is win. So you gotta include Indiana in that. At least I do. Then this is kind of a tie for me because I don't know how Ohio State and Oregon are going to play, although Ohio State's kind of got the lead in this as the preseason number 1 team. Ohio State and Oregon, that's kind of the Big Ten contenders there, with Oregon probably going to be following behind Ohio State. So I think whoever wins that game between them will be the clear favorite, along with Indiana coming out of there. So what do you think? What are some of your teams that you're considering as some contenders this year? And they don't have to be teams that you think will win the national championship. It could be anything that you're like, hey, they're going to perform really well this year.
So some of these I've talked about already. My number 1 team to watch, I would say, would be Notre Dame. Okay. I think they have a chip on their shoulder this year. They feel disrespected. Marcus Freeman's still hanging around. He's still coaching them up. They have one of the top defenses, in my opinion, in the country. They have a great offensive line. They have a running back that's been waiting, just chomping at the bit to get his chance. Let me pull his name up because I forgot. I know it's Williams. His last name, or his first name's a little bit more difficult. Aeneas Williams.
Okay.
I'm putting him on the Heisman watch right now.
Even after losing Love, you think?
Yeah, I think there's going to be no
comeback.
Yeah, I think they
Jeremiah
did.
Love, who might be in our fantasy football preview. We'll see.
Now, I did see something where they may have had a couple of injuries up front on their offensive line, so that may, in the spring I'm talking about, so that may hinder them a little bit early on in the season, possibly. But when it's all said and done, they'll be there competing for a national championship this year. My next team, a team I mentioned previously, I don't know really much about their quarterback right now, but Texas Tech, they will, I will say it, dominate the Big 12 and get into the playoff and possibly make a run. So we'll see. The quarterback will be the X factor there. They have a really good defense, good offensive line, good enough to they should put up a lot of points in that league this year, and will be interesting to watch. And then last,
Big 12 doesn't have a lot of competition, so
I
think they'll be able to dominate.
And then last and not least, a team to watch, a team that I almost say will not make the playoff, but will be highly improved. One, because of their defense. They have a lot of returning players that played really well last year, especially down the stretch. And they have a new quarterback, new head coach that's going to change their offense, have them competing week to week. And some of those games that they were close to pulling off last year, they will pull out this year, turn things around. Like I said, we'll just miss the playoffs, but that team is no other than my Auburn Tigers. I think they are definitely a team to watch out for.
Yeah, I think Auburn is going to be sneaky good this year as well.
Yeah,
I think we just have to pay attention to
national
what's going to happen.
Doing no favors. So that they've always thrived when expectations were low, as most people should have low expectations on any team when they have a new head coach coming in, new philosophy, whether it be offense or defense. Good thing with Auburn, they have the same defensive coordinator, DJ Durkin. He's sticking around, so the defense is going to be tough and one to watch for sure. So yeah,
I think it really depends on how their season opener goes against Baylor in Atlanta, playing on a neutral site. And Baylor wasn't really that good last year. Not, I would say, about the same as Auburn. And then Auburn's going to play Florida at home at Jordan-Hare. So Florida's got a lot of high expectations. Auburn's got a lot of high expectations. So we'll see what happens. And whoever wins that game, I think, is going to have a lot of confidence for the rest of the year in the SEC. So we'll see what happens.
Florida coming in with a new head coach as well, John Summerall, and who's going to be good. I don't think they're going to – I think there's a lot of hype on them for some reason right now. And maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think they're going to compete all that much this year. But in future years, once he's able to establish himself there, they'll turn it around. They had a few lean years the past 10 years or so.
They just got to get the offense going. The defense has always been sneakily good. If they get that offensive going and you play in the swamp, it's a tough environment to play when you go in against the Gators at home. All right, so next we have two different teams, one surprise team and one disappointment team. So I'll give mine first, Kenny, and then you can kind of go over yours, or you can give us some brotherly banter back if you don't agree. But my surprise team this year, again, coming from an SEC team, we support SEC teams, and that's kind of what I tend to focus on. So sorry about that for those that like teams in the Big Ten or the Big 12 or the ACC, whatever. But my surprise team this year is because I follow the SEC, so it's kind of hard not to pick some of these teams. Yeah. So my surprise team this year is going to be South Carolina. They were okay last year. They were pretty good in some games and actually put up a lot of competition against teams. So Lenore Sellers, our quarterback, he is back. He kind of had a down year last year. Yeah. And they have a very good defensive player, Dylan Stewart. Yeah, high expectation. That guy's returning. So I think their defense is going to be really good. Their offense has a lot of potential to play really well. And this is why I call them the surprise team, because now, Kenny, I am scared about the game where South Carolina plays Alabama in late September on the 26th. Alabama, South Carolina. If Alabama doesn't come into that game playing really well, they could lose. Now I'm hoping that Alabama's going to win 10 plus games. It's at Alabama, so it's in Tuscaloosa. But still, you bring a hot South Carolina team into Tuscaloosa. Alabama is known for sometimes losing home games against teams that are playing really well. Again, it happened last year. Alabama's got to play Florida State at home again, play Florida State, which they lost in Tallahassee last year. They got to play them in Tuscaloosa, which I think Alabama will play better. But for some reason, since Nick Saban's left, Alabama hasn't been playing at home as good as they probably should, like some of the other teams have. So let's see where South Carolina and Alabama are when they get together in late September. Then my disappointment team, again, another SEC team, and this team beat Alabama last year, is Oklahoma. I think Oklahoma got really lucky because their offense was terrible and their defense was really good, and that's what got them into the playoffs.
They had to cheat against Auburn.
Yeah. They barely beat Auburn. They just won because they were scoring defensive touchdowns, and that defense is not going to be the same again this year. And their offense, again, it's not good. They
literally ran an illegal play.
Yes, and they didn't get called for a penalty on it. So the referees just didn't catch it.
And didn't catch it. They were paid off. They're playing in Oklahoma. They're paid refs. And they're like, I didn't see it. Nothing to see. And cheated. That's the only reason they won last year. So I like that pick. Yeah. I don't think it's disappointing. Yeah. I think it was a surprise they did as well as they did last year. I mean, they were okay, but this year there does seem to be higher expectations on them. They're expected to do a lot better. And I agree with you. They're going to disappoint a lot of fans this year. So.
Yeah, I think they're going to lose 4 games. I mean, I don't think they're going to win 10. They're definitely in my less than 10 win out of the SEC team of where I see them this year. So we'll see what happens, but that's where I feel they're going to be.
Yeah, I don't disagree with either of those. You're surprised.
Looking at their schedule.
South Carolina and LSU, Oklahoma. I think you're
I think it's going to be flipped. I think this year, South Carolina is going to be the Oklahoma of last year.
Okay.
I think they're going to play good enough offense and really good defense, and they're going to flip the script and potentially could make the playoffs. That's just the way I see it.
And who's their coach, Shane Beamer?
Yeah, at South Carolina. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's potentially on the hot seat down there. So.
Yeah. He's got to play good this year.
So, I think they turn it around and play better. So. And so for my surprise team, I went with a Big Ten school. And it's also a team that I've enjoyed watching for many years. You'll remember this. Is Penn State. They had a down year and fired their coach because he can't win big games.
I think.
Well, maybe, but we'll see. They brought in Matt Campbell, who, in my opinion, could turn out to be better than Franklin, who could get them there. He was consistent on getting them to big games, but could never win the big game.
To me, it was just the players. The Penn State players just couldn't live up to the hype. They'd get into the game and just not play well for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know. And that's why I think they'll surprise some teams this year, and they don't have to play Indiana, they don't have to play Oregon, and they don't have to play Ohio State. So they have
a great schedule.
Their schedule works out great for a new head coach, bringing in a lot of players from Iowa State. Yeah, Iowa State. And including their quarterback. Let me pull him up. I can't remember his name either.
Was Drew not as good as last year.
I don't. You probably have stuff pulled up on your computer, but let me see if I can find it real quick before it's too late.
So their QB is going to be Rocco Beck. I brought that up earlier today.
Yeah, Beck.
Yeah, Beck. Yeah. I brought that up earlier in the podcast. He's one of the quarterback transfers.
He likes to sling it around. He throws a lot of touchdowns, a lot of interceptions, kind of a gunslinger. So that's going to be interesting to see. But I think they'll surprise a lot of people this year. And again, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they're definitely my surprise team. to definitely play better than last year. So, but we'll see.
Yeah, who Rocco Beck, I think, is similar to.
Well, I haven't watched him play. I haven't watched any highlights or anything, so I don't know.
Yeah, he's very similar to Brock Purdy. He's got like the same build, same pocket presence,
quick
kind of
release,
like competitive drive. Yeah, underrated. He's 6'1", but he's over 200, so he's stocky, and he's got that kind of I'm an underdog type of player, and I'm going to prove you wrong. And I think that's what's going to help Matt Campbell and that team be successful.
Maybe kind of like a Baker
play.
Mayfield, even though
not as he's more of a pocket passer. Where Baker Mayfield, he's got wheels and can move around a lot more. But yeah, just think about it that way. If Rocco Beck plays well and Matt Campbell's offensive scheme, that
which he should, it's the same
over the
offense he played
NFL
in this year. So.
Exactly. So I think it's going to be a successful year for Penn State. I do agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
So who's your disappointment?
And then I'll go back to the SEC, and I say disappointing team because I believe there is some high expectations with them bringing in a high profile coach in Mr. Lane Kiffin. I think it's going to be LSU. I think they're going to have because a lot of LSU, their fans, they always think they're the best. They always think so they think they're going to make it to the playoffs.
It's a tough place to play, though.
They're going to make it to the playoffs. They're going to compete for a national championship. Nope, that's not happening this year. I don't think they'll make the playoff at all.
First true test, who do they play? Tiger on Tiger, September 5th, Clemson, LSU at LSU. That's their first game.
Okay. Yeah, first game of the year. Now they should win that. I think Clemson's just their reign of terror that they had years ago is over, and Dabo Swinney needs to probably hang it up. But
they got Auburn this year in the Plains.
Auburn later, deep in the season in October. Yep. So and then they got Alabama the week after that back at home.
But they're playing at home,
and they also have
Alabama
Texas
at night.
They got to play Texas as well.
But they're playing Texas at home.
Yeah.
And really, I think the only test
Tennessee and at Arkansas, but yeah.
Yeah. I think the real test for them is the first game of the year, Clemson, that September 5th game. And then although Ole Miss is still kind of sneaky, we'll see how they play, but that'll be the Lane Kiffin left us and we're going to come back and beat you because they're playing at Ole Miss. And then they don't really play anybody hard until the Auburn game. And then,
at Auburn,
it's Auburn, Alabama, and then Texas back-to-back.
And that just
3 games.
That just goes to my point that they'll be a disappointing team. Their schedule's not all that hard. They do have some tough teams, like you said, Alabama, Texas, Clemson, possibly, but those are all at home and definitely winnable games. Will they win all those? Probably not. So, yeah, I just think there's a few games that they're going to – that at Ole Miss, at Auburn, Texas. I think those are 3 losses there. I know that's going out on a –
could be.
I don't know what time that game is in October at Auburn, but if it's at night, it could be a long night for Lane Kiffin.
Mm-hmm.
So, but time will tell. Time will tell.
All right, we talked about the teams. Now let's talk about some of the coaches.
Okay.
So these are some coaches that we feel are a little under pressure this year. And I'm going to start out with
I brought up already,
the hot seat coaches. So who are the hot seat coaches in 2026? Again, the media is talking a lot about these, and you're probably going to be very familiar with some of these coaches. So really it comes down to 3 coaches. So Florida State's Mike Norvell, he's definitely on the hot seat. Florida State's got to do well this year.
Yep.
Wisconsin's Luke Fickell and Baylor's Dave Aranada. They're all on the hot seat this year.
Who?
Baylor's got Dave Aranada. Is that how you pronounce it?
I don't think so.
Aranda.
It's Aranda.
And Aranda, sorry, Dave Aranda. So Baylor's Dave Aranda, however you pronounce it. I am terrible at pronouncing names. Yeah, I guess Dave Aranda. Right. So Dave Aranda from Baylor is also on the hot seat. And why? Baylor has been terrible. His record is 24-30 in the Big 12 since he's been at Baylor. 4 straight losing seasons. Kenny, I have a very strong feeling that when Baylor plays Auburn and Auburn crushes them, he will get fired. Like, that's it. He's going to get fired.
Well, they did lose. The first game of the season. Auburn beat Baylor last year in Texas.
Yes, but it's over for him. If he loses to Auburn, it's over.
So.
Yeah. I think Wisconsin is going to have a winning season for Luke Fickell to stay. And then obviously Mike Norvell, he's bringing in Ashton Daniels, who transferred from Auburn. He's coming in with a track record of winning. He won some games at Auburn, which was pretty good when he was in there.
Yeah, he's athletic too. He's mobile.
Yeah, he's athletic. He played really well against Alabama, although they didn't win that game. He did play well. Took Alabama to the end of the game. But we'll see what happens. And if you didn't know, Mike Norvell is taking over the play calling abilities back at Florida.
Feeling the heat.
Feeling the heat, yeah. Although I am a Alabama fan, I have family that is Florida State fans, and my sister-in-law is a Florida State alum, so I will be at a lot of Florida State games this year, especially the Alabama-Florida State game in Tuscaloosa.
Florida State fan.
Yeah, my wife's a Florida State fan. I will be at that game with my dad, and we'll do a podcast actually in Tuscaloosa at the game, and then we'll do a pre-podcast, and we're going to do a post-podcast. So we'll see what happens. But let's do that this year at the game, just so for y'all something to look out for. Maybe I'll do some segments while I'm at some of the FSU games as well. All right, so that's the hot seat this year for coaches. For the coaches, or at least one coach, maybe a couple of coaches, that need to win. Who needs to get over that 10-win hump to get their team in the playoffs? Again, one of the teams that I called out earlier, which I think is going to be much improved this year, South Carolina. So Shane Beamer at South Carolina.
Yep.
He's not necessarily on the hot seat, but I think he is, and his team are a dark horse this year. And they were a 4-8 last year, which was very bad. But I think they'll do better this year and get to the 10 wins. Also, another team is Billy Napier lost his job at Florida, and now Florida's got a new coach coming in. Mm-hmm. I think Florida has a strong potential to win 10 games this year as well. So we'll see what happens there. But again, new coach, new kind of intricacies with quarterback play and defense and offense, but defense has always been strong at Florida. But with South Carolina, like I was saying, they've got their same quarterback returning. They've got a really good receiver in Nick Harbor. And then they've got their edge rusher coming in the defense, which is probably going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. Anything less than 9 wins for them is not going to be good for Shane Beamer. That's why I'm projecting they're going to get 10 wins this year and potentially beating Alabama at Alabama.
Yeah, that would definitely.
Again, like I said, I was kind of scared about that.
That would cool things down in Columbia for him, for sure. I think he's on the hot seat, as I mentioned earlier, but not as hot as some of the guys you mentioned. I believe someone that hasn't been mentioned today is in definitely things don't look a little brighter this year. I don't know if he'll get fired this year or if he maybe just decides I don't want to coach anymore, and that's Bill Belichick at North Carolina.
Yeah, we'll see.
What a weird experiment this has been.
Mm-hmm.
As most pundits have loved to talk about his 20-something-year-old girlfriend. If you don't know, Bill Belichick is closer to 80 than he is 70. He's like 75 or some shit. I don't remember. But so, yeah, that's going to be interesting to watch. A lot of hype with him going to college last year, and can he coach these young kids and NIL and all this craziness that college coaching can be. And he's got a ex-cheerleader girlfriend that seemed to want to be involved with everything for some reason. It's going to be interesting to see if he may or may not make it through the season down in Chapel Hill, even though they're not traditionally a football school, they're basketball, but he is bigger than their college. So expectations were kind of high coming in last year. So it's going to be really interesting to watch, see how long he lasts, if he does last the season this year. So I was trying to think of some other coaches that to watch out for. But also this brings up a bigger thought, Matt, and something I may have touched on earlier is who's going to step up and take over that role as the top coach in college football, a la Nick Saban. Who's next Nick Saban?
We thought it was going to be Kirby Smart. That's what everybody thought. Georgia had done really well, and now they're kind of teetering. But now it's Curt Cignetti. He's the superstar in Indiana.
Yeah.
Now until Indiana gets knocked down from
one national championship
last year.
Go back to Gene Chizik at Auburn in 2010. Did everybody think he was going to take over and lead the charge? No. Well, again, Saban was still at Alabama. Clemson was really starting to be good back then with Dabo Swinney, and a lot of people maybe thought Dabo Swinney may be that next guy to step up and take over. But as we've seen, things at Clemson have been up and down and just not consistent. And there may never be a coach that dominates college football like Nick Saban. That's also a possibility with so many transfers and NIL situation. It's hard to be consistent. Or maybe you don't know.
Well, I think with Curt Cignetti, a lot of people don't realize that he is a winner everywhere he goes.
Jesus.
He started
if I had a nickel for every time you said that.
Well, think about this. He started at IUP. What the hell is that? Like, who is IUP? They're in the Pennsylvania State Athletic Conference. Like, where the hell is that? In Pennsylvania.
Sounds like Pennsylvania, man.
But
that's where it is.
They were terrible. So what did he do? I don't know. He came in and went 7-3, 12-2, 9-2. He had a down year, 6-5, 9-3, 10-2. He was 53-17 in Division II, which was he won conference championships. Then what did he do? He goes to Elon, which is in the Colonial Athletic Association. Where the hell is that? He goes 8-4 and 6-5. Not that great. He finally was playing in Division I. Then he goes to James Madison. What he did at James Madison, he did nothing but win there. 14-2, 7-1, 12-2. He's finishing first in the division. Then he goes 11-3 and 11-1 with a 52-9 record there. So doing really well. Then he goes to Indiana, 11-2, 16-0, national championship. So he's got a 146 and 37
essentially the
record.
worst program in football history around. I mean, in major college football
That's
history.
all he does is he turns programs around and he wins. That's what he does. And think about that. What did Nick Saban do? He turned programs around and he won. Where did Curt Cignetti get all his coaching chops from? With the exception of developing himself. He got them from where? Alabama, when he worked under Nick Saban. I was just talking about his head coaching career. But you guys forget that Curt Cignetti was under Nick Saban. He learned the process. He learned how to run a program the right way, and he just tweaked it a little for himself. And that's what he's doing. He's taking the Nick Saban plan, and he is putting it into good use. And he's winning national championships. Who in the world would have thought that Indiana would have won the Natty?
No one.
In football?
No one.
No one.
Yeah.
Honestly, he might have stayed at James Madison and won the Natty. I mean, there was a strong possibility, but he needed to go somewhere where he could get a little bit better players, get a little bit extra money, support the program. But he won at Indiana. Imagine, Kenny, if he went to an SEC or an ACC team, he could dominate. If he dominates again this year at Indiana, watch out. he's going to be going to he'll be able to go to whatever school he wants and get whatever money he wants. And again, he to me is the next big superstar in college football. But there are other coaches out there. Dan Lanning, all his assistants that he had are now a lot of those are head coaches now at other programs. Kenny Dillingham, Josh Lupoy or Lupoa, however you say his name, is at Cal. Will Stein is at Kentucky. They've got a new coach. Very similar. Dan Lanning was a interim assistant, whatever you want to call it, graduate student at Alabama. So he's got a little bit of the Nick Saban coaching tree. And then, Indiana's offensive coordinator, Justin Shannon, he's a really good coach. If they do well again this year, because you got to forget, Indiana led the Big Ten in scoring and yardage last year. If he is great again this year, he'll probably be a head coach somewhere. And I don't know if Curt Cignetti will stay at Indiana, but we'll see.
Yeah, but where else would he go? I mean, I guess outside of
anywhere he wants.
Maybe Ohio State or somewhere in the SEC or something like that. But I mean, maybe he has a dream, quote unquote, dream job.
Yeah, because there was a lot of schools that got new coaches last year. So are they just going to fire their coach after 1 year and pay all that money to drop? I don't know. I don't know what those buyouts are. But yeah, there could be a potential for him to move.
Maybe he wants to go
wherever he wants in the next few
NFL.
years if they do well. Yeah, you never know. He could.
He's not getting any younger either. I don't know. He's late 50s, early 60s or something. So we'll see. As I like to say, time will tell if he becomes the big name in college football head coaches, or the name for college football head coaches.
All right, Kenny, let's take a quick break for our commercial. It's time for our commercial break. We want to give a shout out to Paco's Powder Coating. These guys do great work and deliver on time. If you've got wheels, parts, furniture, recreation equipment, or military and first responder gear, and want to upgrade or restore it, they do high-quality powder coating that lasts. Mention Life on Record when you call, email, or stop by for 10% off. Check them out at pacospowdercoating.com. All right, back to the show. All right, we're back from our commercial break. In the next segment, we're going to get into some of college football's rivalry games. We're going to talk about what potentially could be an upset, playoff implication, and maybe even some trap games. So, Kenny, what I took a look at this year, took a look at the schedules and said, okay, and again, sorry, some of these games are SEC games, but where I feel that could be some playoff implication games. So the first one I have tagged is the Thanksgiving Day, around Thanksgiving, Texas A&M versus Texas at College Station. So this is going to be at Texas A&M. It's a renewed rivalry game. If you don't remember, Texas A&M used to be in the same conference, and then they were separated for a while, and then Texas A&M joined the SEC along with Texas. And this could easily decide who is going to either play in the SEC championship or get that at-large position within that top 12, being one of those group of six teams to make it in, similar to what it was last year. Then next I have Ohio State, Michigan. For some reason, Ohio State, Michigan is always a playoff implication game, depending on who wins that one. And it's that late game that's going to be played usually after Thanksgiving on a Saturday. It's definitely going to have some college playoff postseason implication, depending on where the conference, how well the conferences are doing, the Big Ten's doing, and where the rankings are. And then obviously the one game that we always pay attention to every year as a rivalry game is Alabama-Auburn in the Iron Bowl. I think that game will have some playoff implications either for Alabama or Auburn or both. And it has in the past. It's either Auburn's knocked off Alabama to keep them out of the national championship back when they only played one game, or Alabama knocking Auburn out of the playoffs. But we'll see what happens this year. And then lastly, I've got Georgia and Ole Miss. Again, it's going to be a rematch of a playoff game from last year. And Georgia could get their revenge on Ole Miss. If you remember last year, it was eliminated from the national title contention when they were knocked out of the playoffs by Ole Miss. And this is going to be a regular SEC regular season game for them. So we'll see what happens if that either knocks Georgia or Ole Miss out of the playoffs or it gets one of them in. So we'll see. What do you think? What are some playoff implication games that you've got tagged this year on the schedule?
My first one's going to be Miami at Notre Dame. It's not until November. So
yeah, late game.
That one is going to be crucial for Notre Dame to, I believe, to keep their playoff hopes alive, or could be crucial for Miami. Either one. It could be crucial for both of them to stay in the picture for the playoff. Did you mention Oregon, Ohio State?
No, I said Ohio State, Michigan.
Michigan. Okay. Well, my next one would be Oregon, Ohio State.
Okay.
It's always tough to know because Ohio State's usually always good. They got great players. They have they have returning quarterback and returning wide receiver. It's really good. So this game could go either way. I think Oregon has a really good chance of making it to the national championship game this year if things work out for them. So this is going to be an interesting game. It's also that same weekend as the Miami Notre Dame game. So it's going to be a great weekend for college football, as most weekends are. And then lastly, I would have to say, you already mentioned the Iron Bowl, which is usually always big, no matter how well either team are doing. And you think Alabama's going to dominate and then Auburn plays them a close game or whatever. But my last one is going to be the Auburn-Florida game is intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Because both teams have new head coaches. They have they're going to have essentially new offensive systems. Although I haven't kept up with what Summerall brought into Gainesville. I do know Auburn have a lot of players that Golesh brought in from South Florida. So it's just an early season matchup where expectations may grow a little higher for sure for Auburn. Thank God they're playing this one at home. I think they should win the game anyway, but it'll look really good if they're able to dominate in some fashion. It's, I believe, their third game of the season, so they'll have some reps. The team will start building momentum, and so hopefully it should be an intriguing matchup. I honestly don't think Auburn will blow them out. I think it'll be a close battle and come down to one or two possessions. So just something games I'm looking at, not necessarily anything trap about those, but definitely interesting games that I can't miss for sure for the upcoming
Auburn
season.
Definitely won the transfer portal against Florida. I can tell you that because you got to think about it. Auburn's coach came from South Florida, had some really talented players.
Yeah.
And so did Florida's coach who came from Tulane. They had a lot of talented players, but the coach at Florida didn't bring really anybody in. They brought in a punter and a kicker. Those are the two of their notable transfers. And then an offensive interior lineman. That's it. They lost 34 players in the transfer portal, but they retained 60. So they seem to lose a lot of players and didn't really gain a huge advantage in the transfer portal. So
Yeah.
I think Florida will be really relying on the players that are already there.
Already on the roster. Yeah.
Just developing those that are already on the roster.
And I think that goes
Auburn's bringing in a quarterback
to
and
what I was
bringing
saying
in
earlier.
a few other players that are going to make a difference. Although they lost probably their best receiver. We'll see who replaces him, but I think they have a better chance against Florida.
Yeah. You're talking about Cam Coleman going to Texas, and that,
yeah,
to me is not that big of a deal. They have some other wide receivers and brought in some from South Florida as well. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. It's going to be nice for Brown to be able to throw to guys that he's comfortable with already. That's a big plus for them. So,
that's that Keyshawn Singleton from UCF transferred.
Yeah. So that's going to help a lot. The key for Auburn this year is going to be their offensive line. They've had bad offensive line play for years now. I don't know why. They just either can't get good players or they can't develop players. I don't know what the problem is, but that's going to be the key this year, I believe. If Brown gets time, if he's able to get out of the pocket when he wants to run, if he's able to have time back there to throw to guys, then Auburn should be okay. So again, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but they'll at least have a better showing than last year. Although they were very competitive in most of their games last year, and games could have went either way. They just didn't fall their way. So hopefully that script flips and they're able to pull off those wins. And who knows, maybe they're able to pull out some upsets along the way and sneak into the playoffs, but I just don't see it happening in year one, maybe down the line.
Next, I want to call out some games that are potentially trap games where it could be an upset. So first one comes up in October. So on October 3rd, Ohio State is playing at Iowa. This could be an upset potentially for Ohio State. They could come into that undefeated at that point. The thing is, the Iowa game is included in a long stretch of road games at Texas, Iowa, Indiana, and USC. So I think there's a trap game in there because they're going to be focused on Texas. They're going to be focused on Indiana, probably focused on USC, and they're not going to be focused too much on Iowa. So Iowa's got a potential to beat them there.
Yeah,
we've got Texas.
Is that game early in the year or later?
October 3rd. It's October 3rd.
So mid-season.
Middle of the year. Yeah, mid-season.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
they have 4 road games. Texas, at Iowa,
if they come out
Indiana,
flat,
at USC.
If they come out flat, it could be an interesting fourth quarter for sure. So that's a good pick, man.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Next is Texas at Missouri. That's on November 7th, so early November. It is the first road game that Texas has where they're playing 3 road games, Missouri, Texas A&M, and then LSU. So before they go to LSU, then they have Texas A&M, and then they play Missouri. So that could be a tough matchup for them. They could be beat up. They could be hurt. Who knows what the team's going to be like by the time they get to Missouri. So that could be a tough matchup for Texas, and it could really be a playoff telling game for Texas, depending on what their record is at that time. If they lose that game, it could knock them off. Then, as the team I said earlier, as a team that I think was going to do really well this year, South Carolina. So Georgia is going to play South Carolina later in the season. It's ripe for an upset at home over Georgia. And we'll see what happens with Kirby Smart and Georgia and see where they are in the playoff push by the time they get to South Carolina. And then this game, I'm calling this game an upset, and it probably could potentially put Notre Dame in a position where you called Notre Dame as one of your favorites this year, could put them in an awkward position on whether they're going to get a playoff spot. Is they're going to play SMU at home. SMU is going to be playing at home against Notre Dame, and SMU could be in a position where they have to win to make into the playoffs in the ACC. So we'll see what happens there, but I think that's another potential upset for Notre Dame
former
team going into the end of the year.
Auburn offensive coordinator Rhett Lashley down at SMU doing a fantastic job. And you mentioned Kenny Dillingham earlier, and I don't know if a lot of people know, he was also a coordinator or assistant at Auburn a few years back. I can't remember if it was under Malzahn or someone else, but good to see them going out and doing well in their places at SMU and Arizona State. Yeah, Matt, those are some great picks. I don't have anything prepared for as far as an upset game. I mean, I don't have a schedule pulled up, and if I try to pull it up on my crap computer, maybe I can do it on my phone, but it'll mess with our video here. But let me see if I can pull up some schedules real quick. Let's see.
Yeah, while you're looking that up, I'll give some examples. So the reason why I kind of chose those as potential upsets, trap games, it happened to Alabama last year. Alabama came into Florida State. They were ranked number 10. Florida State wasn't even ranked, and they lost 31-17 in Tallahassee. And then the SMU Mustangs lost to Cal in the regular season finale, and Cal knocked SMU out of the ACC title game and college football contention and making the playoffs. Because if they would have won the ACC, they would have made the playoffs. And then Texas at Florida knocked off Texas, was definitely not expected there. And then USC at Illinois. Illinois knocked off USC last year, which was kind of crazy, and that knocked those teams out of potential playoffs. So I think the games I talked about, where you've got an unranked host, you've got a favorite that's coming in that could be distracted because they've got other road games that they want to be focused on some of the other tougher teams. And there's a lot of playoff potential there, where if Ohio State loses to Iowa at home and Texas loses to Missouri, I mean, that's going to be a bad loss on their record, especially with those. Missouri and Ohio aren't ranked. So we'll see where they are when we get to those games. But that's why I kind of chose them as potential upsets.
Yeah.
What'd you find, Kenny?
Well, you didn't mention Texas at Missouri?
I did. That was what I was just talking about.
Yeah. Okay. I thought that's what you said, but I just want to make sure. Yeah, because I was looking over Texas's schedule. I mean, expectations are super high at Texas this year. So, yeah, that stood out to me when I just looked at their schedule. They're at LSU the following week. So I definitely agree with you on that as far as a potentially trap game. Missouri could have been a team to watch this year, a surprising team. Although maybe it not be a big surprise to a lot of people out there that they keep up with them, but yeah, they should have a decent year this year and could surprise and upset some people. So good pick there, Matt, as I chose the same game. So let's pull up a different schedule and see about. Let me check Ohio State.
See if you see anything else on their schedule. I saw that Iowa game as a potential trap game, as a loss, because again, they're playing Texas, Indiana, USC, and Iowa all on the road. And who are they not going to give two shits about? Iowa. And
it's a game that they should win.
In the Big Ten.
Yeah. Should handle them fairly easily. So, So yeah, that, I guess they could go into that overlooking them and it possibly being upset. It'll probably be closer than most people think. I'll say that. Let's see. Well, for Ohio State, possibly that at a USC game. USC's hasn't been living up to expectations the last few years. And maybe this is a year that they actually turn things around and make a playoff run. So, and then they have Oregon the following week at home, which is a big game. So to me, looking at their schedule, that Southern California, sorry, I don't know. Southern Cal game is a trap game, possibly trap game for Ohio State. So any Ohio State fans out there listening, better get your team ready.
Mm-hmm.
And
Better
then
get them boys ready.
And then I'm going to go and look at one other place. I'm going to say, and this is an actual rivalry game as well. The Alabama at Tennessee game on, the third
It's in October.
Saturday in October.
Saturday in October.
So it's October 17th this year. It's sandwiched in between a home game for Alabama versus Georgia. And then the week after is a home game against Texas A&M. Both teams, Georgia has high expectations as they have had for a while. They should be competing for a national championship this year. And then Texas A&M, they've been playing better under their head coach. I forget his name too.
Who's head coach?
A&M, Texas A&M. And then the game after that, they go and play at LSU. Alabama does the game after A&M. So it's a tough.
Mike Elko is
Elko,
head coach.
Mike Elko.
Texas A&M.
I knew it was Mike something. A bunch of Mikes hanging around. So they had a little tough stretch of games versus Georgia, at Tennessee versus A&M, and then at LSU. That at Tennessee game may have, even though it's a rivalry game, Tennessee hasn't been doing that much lately, so that may be one that Alabama will have to look out for. So those are my trap picks for this year. Let me look for an upset. Well, I was taking a look at Georgia's schedule, just seeing if there was anything there that could possibly be an upset game this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe at Ole Miss, but I think you mentioned that earlier. I mean, we'll see. Ole Miss has a new head coach, so maybe that's not a great pick as far as an upset goes. It's hard to looking at their schedule. I mean, it's hard to pick anything as an upset. Maybe the at Alabama game. I mean, would be a minor upset, in my opinion. Although expectations, at least on the national media side for Alabama this year, is not that high. So I honestly don't know that many people picking them to make the playoffs. So that could potentially be an upset. The rest seem, although that late game at South Carolina late in the season could be a tough one for them. But I don't really see too many that would be let me look at Indiana's schedule and see if I see anything there just real quick. Which is weird saying what could be a potential upset for Indiana. I mean,
are we talking about the basketball team or the football team?
Now, this is the football team, man. Their basketball team's not that good either. That's what's crazy.
No, well, their football team's really good.
Really been, well, they were last year, man. That last year's last year. Let's don't do the whole. Oh, it'd be
like if Duke,
best thing since sliced bread.
If Duke or North Carolina decided to start winning national championships in football instead of basketball, or Kentucky decided to win the SEC and then win a national championship.
Yeah, so Indiana's schedule doesn't look all that tough either. They just to run them off real quick: North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky, Northwestern. Those are all home games, and then at Rutgers, at Nebraska, home against Ohio State, at Michigan, home against Minnesota, home against USC, at Washington, and then home against Purdue. I would say
so 3 games that are maybe hard.
The one at Michigan, stands out to me because it's after the Ohio State game.
Yeah.
Ohio State could get their revenge, get that win versus Indiana, and then a downward spiral for old Kurt Signetti is my
we'll see.
prediction there. So
that's your prediction,
but we'll see.
Okay. Next we're going to do a game called Pretender, Contender, or Dark Horse. So I'm going to name a team, and you tell me if they're a
contender,
pretender,
or dark
pretender,
horse.
or a dark horse. You ready?
Seems simple enough, Matt.
Seems simple. All right, we'll start with the defending national champion with a new QB, Indiana.
I think they're a pretender this year.
So you're saying they're ranked and hyped, but the buzz is just because they won the national championship and they're not going to perform.
I think it's they're overhyped, they're overrated this year. They got a bunch of new players. Signetti's the only constant there, so we'll see. And I just went over their schedule. It seems pretty easy, except for, like I said, like you said, 3 games there. So we'll see. They could lose all 3 of those, and then they won't make the playoff and all that jazz. So I'm going to stick with it. I think they've been overhyped since talking season began, so I'm going to stick with that.
Okay. Next team reached last year's college football playoff largely due to defensive touchdowns and a fumble/pick six rather than actual offensive quality plays. Their current coach is 22-17, which isn't a great record in 3 years. Oklahoma, where do you see them?
For sure a pretender. I think so as well. I think they take a step back this year and they're going to be put in their place. So, pretender.
All right. This team is quietly rolling, and because of their schedule this year that looks really good for them, could be 11-1 by the end of the season and reach the college football playoff as a dark horse. Houston, where do you see them? I think they're a dark horse. But, yeah, looking at their schedule, they could be 11-1.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Let me pull them up. But also, somebody else won 11 games last year, didn't make the playoff. So there's always that potential. If your schedule's a little too easy, it could hurt you.
I mean, it's not like really easy. They start out with Oregon State, then they play Southern, then Texas Tech. That's going to be a tough one, but if they beat Texas Tech, that's a good roll. Then they go to Georgia Southern. Then they play UCF, who their coach left, and they had some other players leave. Kansas State. Then they play Oklahoma State, who has not been good. Then they play Utah, Cincinnati, Colorado. Who knows what's going to happen with Deion Sanders in Colorado?
Wait, who's Cincinnati? Sounds like you said Cincinnati.
I said Cincinnati.
It's like Cincinnati. Okay.
West Virginia and then Baylor, and that's their schedule.
Well, that Cincinnati game, Cincinnati and Texas Tech are probably their 2 toughest games. So yeah, I mean, you make a good point, but I don't know. It's hard. The Big 12 just isn't the Big 12 anymore. Pretender. So
you think Houston's a pretender?
I mean they're not even really in the conversation of anything. So
that's why I said they're a dark horse.
Okay,
it's either
okay. I'll say a dark.
horse.
I'll say dark horse then.
Dark horse. All right. Remember, it's contender, pretender, or dark horse. Okay. Yeah. This next team has a really good offense, and they can beat teams, and they play in the SEC. So where do you think Tennessee falls?
I would put them in a dark horse category.
Okay.
I could see them rattling off a few
making the college playoffs
wins that they shouldn't be winning. So yeah, I say a dark horse.
All right. So this next team is a popular preseason pick, but we'll see how they play with the new head coach, and it's Penn State.
I think they're a contender this year, and that may just be because of their schedule. Like I said earlier, they don't. I like Matt Campbell as a coach. I think they'll have a better record than last year. I think what were they 7-6 last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think they'll do better solely on their schedule alone. I don't think they'll make the playoff though. They'll be held out of that. We'll see, but But yeah, I would say contender based on their schedule and last year's results when they were disappointing. So
Okay. This next team started out as preseason number 4 last year, and they finished the season 7-6. Where do you see the mighty Clemson Tigers?
ooh, it's a good one. I see continued decline. That's what I see.
Yeah, pretenders,
I
definitely.
could be wrong, but they're definitely a pretender. I think Dabo Swinney's lost his luster, just not bringing in, not wanting or willing to bring in transfer players.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, I mean, they're like you said, they were preseason ranked number 4, high expectations coming into last year, and then highly disappointing. So it really, I don't see them doing much worse, but I don't see them doing better either. Like they're just going to be another middle of the pack team. So definitely a pretender.
Okay. Next is the currently preseason's number 1 ranked team, Ohio State.
Contender.
Okay. I think that one's pretty easy.
Yeah,
Definitely contender.
I mean, they had
All right,
returning 2 of the best players in college football.
Best receiver probably.
Yeah,
very good quarterback. Yeah, it's kind of hard.
And a great defense. I mean, they'll be right up there. They'll be in the semifinal or final of the playoffs this year. Should be, anyway.
This next team, I didn't know this, but they did not lose a single projected starter in the transfer portal, and it's Oregon.
Yeah, they're a contender for sure.
All right, so a legit national title threat. All right.
Yes, for sure. And we didn't do like national championship picks or conference winners or anything like that, but I think they will I think solely because of their bringing back their quarterback. They're, like you said, brought back a lot of players, probably the most retained roster in college football or one of. So yeah, they're definitely a contender and possibly will be hanging a banner or whatever they do as far as, or raising the trophy, I guess. There's no banner in college football.
Trophy. All right, let's go to another team. This team has been tabbed as kind of an on-the-rise team in the Big 12, and we'll see how well they do this year. But BYU, where do you see them?
I'm going to have to say pretender.
Not basketball, the football team. Pretender? Okay.
Yeah, pretender. Yeah, I mean, yes, they'll compete in that Big 12, but the Big 12 isn't going to get more than one team into the, in my opinion.
Yeah. So you don't see them as a dark
talked about
horse
the tweet
potentially dethroning Texas Tech?
No, I just think Texas Tech is too strong.
Too good. Yeah,
I mean, they could put me.
BYU's had a lot of.
They could put me at quarterback, mad, and they'd do all right. So their team is pretty stacked. So I just feel that they just won't be able to hang with them. So they're a pretender.
Okay. Let's go back to the SEC. So this team is loaded on paper. They've got a new head coach, and they've got a lot of portal transfers, but so far unproven because it's a new year. How do you think LSU is going to show up on the field? What are they going to show up as?
As hot garbage is what I think.
Hot garbage. So you're saying they're a pretender.
Yeah, right. Definitely a pretender. I think I said something about this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Expectations are really high. Lane Kiffin was kind of mundane at SEC media days. Usually he's good. He's good for a handful of sound bites and stuff. And I think he sees the writing on the wall that this year will be kind of they're going to go through some growing pains, and I could see them doing well in the future, but not this year. This year they're a pretender.
Okay. All right. This team has a strong quarterback returning and a very good defense, again, out of the SEC in South Carolina.
I'd say dark horse, which going into the season probably doesn't have a lot of expectations. We talked about their head coach possibly being on at least a warm seat or a semi-hot seat, them having somewhat higher expectations going into last year and then not living up to those, especially at the quarterback position. I think they'll come in with a chip on their shoulder and they'll do a lot better. So definitely almost a contender, but it is South Carolina. So
a dark horse.
I'll put them in
as I
as a
mentioned
dark
earlier.
horse team. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's jump over to the ACC. So this team was winning one game away from going to the ACC title game last year. Georgia Tech. Where do you see them?
Ooh. To be honest, I haven't done much research on Georgia Tech, so I don't know what they got going on.
They have a really good coach.
Yeah, they have a great coach. Yeah, they came out of the gates hot last year. Was 8 undefeated after their first 8 games, and then lost a high-scoring game to North Carolina State, and then squeaked out a close win at Boston College, and then lost their last 3 games of the season. So let me look. This year's schedule seems to be a little tougher than last year's. Yeah, I would say they're a pretender.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see them winning. I just don't see them winning 9 games this year or improving and get over that hump and winning 10. But yeah, they might win 6 games this year, so they're a pretender.
Okay. All right. Next, this team's coach this will be his 3rd year, and he took over from arguably the winningest college football coach in history, Alabama, Crimson Tide, my Alabama. What do you think they fall as?
Well, you probably know what I'm going to say.
Sure, go ahead.
And that's not just because I'm biased. I mean, that's part of it. But I think they're a pretender. I think this season will put, what's their head coach's name again? Forget.
DeBoer?
DeBoer? Somebody?
DeBoer, Mike DeBoer. It's DeBoer.
Mike
Like a
DeBoer?
boar, but it's duh. Yes, Mike DeBoer.
Yeah, I'm DeBored with him. As most Alabama fans probably are as well. I think they're a pretender. I don't think he gets fired after this year. Didn't they? I mean, he's got
hire Kirk Cignetti. That's what some people say.
That could possibly happen. I don't think it'll happen after this year because I think, like I said, I think Indiana comes back down to reality a little bit. The bluster, if you will, for
Kirk Cignetti will fight you. He would fight you on that.
I will knock that old man out and not think twice about it. Fight me. Or at least take him down to the ground and check his oil or something.
With 1 finger or 2?
Hey, whatever it takes. Whatever the job calls. So, I think, like I said, Indiana comes down a little. Alabama continues their slide of mediocrity for at least what their fans think of mediocrity. And they won't want to go after Cignetti. But yeah, I think at the end of this year, he'll be on the hot seat for sure down in Tuscalooserville. So.
Okay. All right, so move on. We got 2 more teams. So this team has got a really good coach. They have a great quarterback, historic name, and he's played even better last year, and they've got a couple new weapons. So Texas, where do you see the University of Texas?
Contender. Expectations are really high. I was never that high on just because his name's Manning. It doesn't mean he's going to be all that good. He looked like dog shit at the beginning of the year, last year.
But he played better.
Progressively did get better. So they should come out looking better, playing better. I see them making it to the playoff, possibly making it to the national championship game. Obviously, this all depends on how well they play against tough teams like Georgia and Ohio State. They have to play. So we'll see. But do have them as a contender. So
Okay. All right. This last team, their coach has done almost everything right, brought in the right players. They've done really well. They've signed new freshmen that have potentially almost won them a national championship last year, and that would be Miami. So the Miami Hurricanes, a private school, University of Miami. What do you think about them?
Well,
Contender, pretender, or dark horse? I don't know if they could be a dark horse.
No, not a dark horse after last year. And historically, well, they were good in the 80s and I guess late 90s, early 2000s. They were good. Didn't really do much of shit since then until last year. So I want to say contender, but I also want to say pretender. They're kind of hard to judge with new guy, former Duke quarterback coming in. They probably lost a good chunk of their players from offense and defense. So kind of a turnover, new roster coming in. And so you don't really know with teams like that. It's hard to gauge. Same coach, Cristobal, like you said. So they should be contending, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say pretender. The hype is high on them again this year, and so I'll throw them in the pretender category. And
okay.
I don't know if
Pretender
who's keeping notes here. Are you writing this down so we can laugh or celebrate later in the season when we were wrong?
Yeah, I'll just pull it out of the transcript. So
okay.
We'll be
do that.
Yep. Okay. Now, based off everything that we've talked about today, let's wrap this up in what our current thoughts are on this college football season and who has the highest probability to win the awards at the end of the season. So first off, Kenny, we'll start with who is your prediction what is your prediction for the national champion?
Well, I think I mentioned this earlier, and I've kind of narrowed it down to two teams.
But you got to pick one.
And it's a coin toss.
Okay.
And I hate to do this because one of them is Auburn's my main squeeze, but I have two other teams that I also cheer for because there's many years where Auburn wasn't good, and so I just kind of jump back and forth on this. But I've liked these teams since late 80s, okay? So this isn't something new. I've always enjoyed Notre Dame and Penn State, as our family members know. And I narrowed it down, like I said, to Notre Dame and Oregon. I think I'm going to have to go with Oregon. I don't know why, but
for the Natty? Okay.
Yeah, something just tells me that it's Oregon's year.
So you think Oregon and Notre Dame are going to play for the national championship?
Yeah, that could be the end.
With Oregon winning.
Yeah. I'll go. I hate to say that, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's the opposite, where it's Notre Dame over Oregon. That's who I'd be cheering for, but I just think Oregon has too much talent. They've retained a lot of players. Their head coach is really good, so I just think it comes down to, like I said, a coin toss, and it keeps coming up a duck for some reason.
Okay. Well, my prediction, similar but not the same. I have Ohio State and Notre Dame playing in the national championship.
Okay.
Which is pretty close.
I could see that too.
That's what I have. And then I have Ohio State winning the national championship. That's my prediction.
The last time Ohio State won, they beat Notre Dame, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
that's my prediction this year is Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Yeah, 3 years ago. Or 2 years ago. Fuck, I don't remember. Wait, it was...
Either way.
2 years ago.
Sure, 2 years ago.
It was 2 years
Ohio
ago.
State won.
Okay. Michigan won 3 years
ago. All right. Next, this one might be a little tough because you got to think about all the players across the college football. So who's your Heisman? Who's your favorite to win the Heisman this year?
Let me look real quick. In my trusty...
handy dandy notebook?
Yeah, my trusty handy dandy notebook. Here.
All right, while you're looking in your handy dandy notebook,
tell me yours.
I'm going to give you mine.
Yeah,
I'm going to give you mine. So I think it's going to come down to 3 players. Usually that's who they have at the Heisman thing. Is it 3 or 4 players? But I'm just going to give you 3.
Yeah, usually 3 finalists.
3 finalists. So here's my 3 finalists. It's going to be Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State.
Okay.
It's going to be Arch Manning from Texas. And it's going to be CJ Carr from Notre Dame. And for the Heisman, I think it's going to go to CJ Carr at Notre Dame. He's going to squeak it out. I know that's going to be kind of scary. Like, Manning didn't win it. And Jeremiah Smith's probably going to have 1,400 yards receiving. He's going to have like a Dante Smith when he won the Heisman type of year. But I think Carr leading Notre Dame to the national championship, even though I think they're going to lose against Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith in Ohio State, I think that's going to give him enough to win the Heisman. Yeah, CJ Carr is who I have winning the Heisman.
Okay, that's a good pick, Matt. I would have to say, second, you're him as a finalist. So CJ Carr.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm going to go with, I guess Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be the best receiver this year.
And then, oh man, this is kind of tough. And then I'm going to go, and you can call me a homer if you want. But as a dark horse Heisman contender, and it obviously he's not going to win because I don't think they're going to, but I think he has potential to put up good numbers to at least get him in the conversation, and that's Byron Brown at Auburn.
Okay.
And I know that's kind of crazy, and then I'm all just second what you said, CJ Carr as the winner.
Okay. Well, I think you might be onto something because over the last decade, the Heisman winner has been someone who was a huge long shot at the beginning of the year. So like Mendoza, he was a huge long shot at the beginning of the year. So you might be onto something with Byron Brown. I mean, we're picking players that already have a high probability of winning the Heisman because of either pedigree or play or
it could just end up being Jeremiah Smith.
Over the last 10 years, it's been guys that nobody thought was going to win the Heisman. So we'll see. It's a good pick there. Okay. So next, let's go to Coach of the Year. Who do you think is going to be Coach of the Year this year?
Well, I'm going to go with Oregon's head coach, Dan Lanning.
Okay. Yeah, making the national championship. Yeah. I agree. That's who my Coach of the Year pick is. I think it's Dan Lanning of Oregon.
Yeah, we're due for them.
Both on the same page there.
They've been pretty consistent winners the past, 5-10 years. So I think it's just their year. It's just going to be their year all around. National championship, Coach of the Year. Not Heisman, though. I started to say Dante Moore as a Heisman candidate, and he still could be, possibly. But I think they're just overall a good team or a great team. They don't have, none of their players really stand out that much. So, but yeah, I think Dan Lanning and crew get it done this year.
Okay.
And you?
All right. So next is breakout player. This is somebody that's not going to win the Heisman, but they're going to break out and play really well this year. I think it's going to be, even though he had a good year last year, I think he's going to go way above this, and it's going to be Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, wide receiver.
That's your
breakout player.
Breakout player?
Yeah, because here's why. Is he didn't have as good a year last year as he potentially should have. So,
yeah,
if you think about it, I think this is going to be his breakout year.
I think it's going to be Cam Coleman. Unfortunately, Auburn didn't use him as they should have because Hugh Freeze sucks. And I think going to Texas is going to be big for him with Manning slinging the rock to him. And I think he'll have a breakout season, 1,000+ yards, 100+ catches. He'll be the breakout star of this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's why I picked Jeremiah Smith, because he did better in 24 than he did last year in 25. So
yeah, he was a disappointment.
I think he's going to have close to 100 receptions. I think it's going to be like 1,500 or more yards. And I think he's going to have somewhere around 18 touchdowns, if not more. That's going to be my breakout. And that's what I think is going to help get him to not necessarily win the Heisman, but get him to the stage.
The ceremony in New York. Yeah.
The ceremony in New York. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So next we're going to go with best game. So what do you think is going to be the best game this year in college football?
Ooh. Well,
just so my pick, I already mentioned it earlier.
Well, I'm just going to say Ohio State, Oregon.
Okay.
2 national title contenders going head to head. They're going to play November 7th weekend we talk about. It's in.
It's the same with Texas and Missouri play that weekend as well.
Yeah, it's at Ohio State. So place is going to be absolutely rocking, especially if both teams come in undefeated, which Oregon should. Their only tough game prior to that is at USC on September 26th. So they come in undefeated. Ohio State, on the other hand, could have possibly already lost a game or two by that time. Yeah, that game at Texas is going to be tough for Ohio State. And then you mentioned a trap game at Iowa. They also play at Indiana and then at USC the week before Oregon. So, but no matter what happens before then, I think that's going to be a great game for everybody to watch. I did mention, I think earlier, the Miami Notre Dame game is that same weekend. So that's another potential for best game of the year, but Ohio State, Oregon.
Okay. I've got Georgia Ole Miss as the best matchup because it's a rematch of the college football playoff game last year that knocked Georgia out. And I think Georgia is going to be looking for some revenge against Ole Miss.
And that's
Ole Miss got a new coach.
Ole Miss or
returning player. Yeah, it's at Ole Miss. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really good game this year. It's kind of a rematch of last year's college
revenge
football
game.
playoff.
Yeah.
Revenge game. Yep.
Yeah.
We already talked about our biggest upsets. I gave Ohio State and Iowa, kind of that trap game, and then Texas at Missouri is another trap game. Those were our biggest upsets, and I think you agreed with some of those, and we kind of talked about those a little bit ago. But next, we're going to go with 2 teams. You got to pick one of these. What's going to be your most improved team and your most disappointing team this year?
Well, my most improved team is going to be my Auburn Tigers. I think they're going to figure some stuff out on offense that they couldn't do.
And they're going to get, what, more than 4 wins, 5 wins? Is that what?
Yeah.
What was last year's record?
I think over-under is
going to get 6?
6 this year, so.
Yeah, 6.
I think they could pull out 8 or 9 if they can get an upset in there, whether it be Alabama or I guess they do have a tough stretch at Tennessee, at Georgia, home against LSU, and then at Ole Miss. So that's a tough stretch in itself. But if they could pull off 1 or 2 of those, they could have a really good, interesting year. So I'm gonna stick with it. They do have a tough schedule, but they're, like I said earlier, their defense is going to be stout, and offense should be more improved from last year. So it's Auburn.
Okay, and what's your most disappointing team?
And then most disappointing team, it's going to be Indiana.
Okay.
I think, as I've said many times, they're going to take a step back down to reality this year, and their fans are going to be reminded that it was a fluke. It was a fluke last year, in my opinion, whether Kurt Signetti's there or not.
Okay. All right. I'll give you mine. So you might not necessarily agree with this first one, but I think the most improved team this year will be LSU.
Okay.
And why? I think because
they could have been my most disappointing team, but
it could have been. I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah, I probably should have.
Because with Lane Kiffin coming in, he's almost entirely redone the roster. He's bringing in Sam Levitt as a transfer QB, and he signed a record $4 million NIL deal with offensive linemen. So he brought in a bunch of offensive linemen to make the team better. So I think they're going to be the most improved team compared to last year.
Did this offensive line, did he bring, take guys from one team?
Other teams.
Or just pick and choose from other teams, and they're just kind of a mixed bag from other teams? That doesn't...
for the most part, yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, they better gel quickly, guess, but...
Yeah. They'll figure it out.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster to me.
You sign guys, you draft guys, they got to figure it out. You put the best guys out there.
Yeah, but usually have 4 or 5 new guys. It's usually one guy here and maybe one
Yeah,
guy.
just remember the old saying, Kenny, do your job, you'll be fine. So you just got to go out there and do their job.
Well, let's
If
hope.
the linemen block and nobody sacks the quarterback, sounds like a good thing to me. If they make holes for the running backs, sounds like a good thing to me.
I guess we'll find
They
out.
just got to do their job. Just got to do their job. And then my most disappointing team, I kind of brought this up earlier. I think Oklahoma is going to be the most disappointing team this year. They got a lot of luck last year with turnovers, and their defense
And cheating.
played really well and got lucky, and their offense was terrible. So, yeah, I think Oklahoma is going to be the most disappointing team this year.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I see.
I don't think it's disappointing.
Okay.
But because their expectations, yes, their expectations are high for whatever reason. And they may prove us wrong, but I don't see them doing well anyway this year. And so to me, it wouldn't be necessarily disappointing, but disappointing to their fans for sure. For sure.
But yeah, disappointing to their fans.
So yeah, if that's
anything
what we're saying,
for them
definitely
is
disappointing
winning
for
the
the
SEC.
fans.
Yeah, making the playoffs. That's what their fans expect is win the SEC, make it to the playoffs, and give them a chance to win the national championship. That's what their fans expect. But they're not going to do that this year. It's not going to be a good year for them. That's my prediction. Before we close out this podcast, I'm gonna talk about some real media hot takes that are going on right now in football. So the first one is, and I don't necessarily agree with this, but this is what's going on. And obviously, I picked the national champion to come from the Big Ten, but the SEC won't win the national championship this year. The Big Ten enters as the clear favorite conference. They've won 3 straight titles, and Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Oregon are all ahead of any SEC team on the prediction board, with Ohio State, Oregon, Indiana, Michigan, USC, and Penn State all viewed as legitimate college football championship contenders. So, with all that being said, Kenny, do you think the Big Ten is going to win their 4th straight crown?
Well, I mean,
we picked them, right? So
I picked Oregon. So
we picked them.
I would say
we picked them.
But I mean, like I said earlier, just because you're not winning the title doesn't mean that your conference is, or that just because you're winning the title doesn't mean your conference is the best. Yes, they have some really good teams. And I mean, yeah, the SEC won't win the national championship this year. We could be proved wrong. I just don't see it happening. Not this year, maybe next year or the next. Moving forward, I still think the SEC is the best conference overall, top to bottom. So, but they won't win the title this year.
Okay. All right. The next hot take going around out there is what freshman or first-year starter becomes a superstar this year? And it's none other than Alabama's Keelan Russell. Right now, he is the go-to breakout football player or star for 2026. Think about Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb's track record of developing prolific passers. Even though he only threw 15 passes last year as a backup because he was the 3rd string, I think he's going to take over the starter at Alabama and become a superstar there. Alabama may not win the national championship this year, but next year they'll be in the running, and he will lead that team to the national championship and win a Heisman at Alabama. That's my prediction for next year. But he'll be this year's first-year starter / freshman superstar.
Well, I don't
even
know.
Though he was a freshman last year.
I don't know anything about that guy or much
Look
about
him up. You'll find out
much about any freshman. But he probably won't even start this year, will he?
He's probably not going to start in the first game, but Alabama's got a powdery schedule at the beginning until they meet with FSU. So I think there's some time there to kind of figure things out and determine if he's going to be the starter.
That's interesting. I mean, I don't know. Unless you have some big name freshman coming into your team specifically, I can't, like you just mentioned with Alabama, I can't think of any top herald freshman coming in. I think most of the talk's been about NIL and about transfers, and now it's about getting that top transfer class. And so I don't have a freshman quarterback that becomes a superstar.
Yeah, no, this is just what's going on. This is what's just making the circles in the media now.
Yeah.
You don't have to have an
Well,
answer.
I haven't heard anything about this, but
going all over this stuff. So, yeah, just talking about what's going on.
Maybe
in
you're
the
just
media
listening
around.
to Paul Feinbaum or something.
Sometimes, although he doesn't support Alabama as much as you think he does.
No, I know.
Okay,
I've listened to him before.
The next topic that's circling around the media now as a hot take is a coach will get fired before Halloween this year. And who will they be? I think it's going to be one of the three coaches I named in the hot seat, which is either going to be Mike Norvell at Florida State, Luke Fickell at Wisconsin, or Aranda at Baylor. Particularly Aranda, I think when he loses that game, that's it. He's done. He's got a losing record in the Big 12. So why would they even keep him? So I think, once he loses to Auburn, that's done for him. They're going to start doing the
first game of the year, though, Matt. You think they're going to fire him after the first game?
I'm just telling you, he's done, man. He's not going to get fired after the first game. I'm just telling you, it's going to set the stage for him getting fired before Halloween. Before the end of October, he will be out.
Auburn's favored in that game. So why would they even keep him after the end of the year? If they're just going to fire him after the first game,
it's going to be his downfall. Yeah, he's just going to keep losing. That's what I'm saying. It's just going to be the start of the end.
I say a coach will get fired. If it's not Norvell, it will be Billy Belichick at North Carolina.
I
don't think he makes it to Halloween. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I think he probably just packs his bags and says it's time to take a seat because my coaching days are over.
Another hot take that's circling around the media is a top 10 preseason team will finish unranked. And that team is none other than Big Ten's Penn State. The Nittany Lions now they're a preseason top 10, and the hot take is that they're going to finish unranked. That's a little crazy.
I think that's crazy, and I think that whoever said that hasn't looked at their schedule. I think as long as now they won't. I don't think they'll finish in the top 10, but I could see them winning 8-9 games. Let me pull up their schedule again. I mean, it's fairly easy in my opinion, but you just never know. Hell, is it almost there? Penn State, boom, bam, shakalaka. So this is their schedule, Matt. Marshall, at Temple, Buffalo, Wisconsin, interesting game at home.
Mm-hmm.
At Northwestern, USC is at home. At Michigan, definitely a tough game. Then they have Purdue, at Washington, Minnesota, Rutgers at home, and then at Maryland, whose coach is on the hot seat there in Maryland.
Yeah, Wisconsin's
I think that's a fairly easy schedule, and I could see them only losing maybe 3 games.
I think they'll have a similar record that they had last year with 7-5. I think it'll be very similar, and they're going to lose to some of those unranked teams.
Or 7-5.
Yeah, 7-6. Whatever.
Now, I think they could eke out 9 wins, whether it's 8 in the regular season, 9 and 9th being their bowl game, or 9 regular season wins would be a. But I see them improving and getting 1 or 2 more wins this season. So I don't think they'll drop out of the top 25. It's a possibility they drop unranked. I mean, there's a lot of teams that obviously could be above them, but if they get to 9 wins this year, that final poll, whether it's before the season or after the season's completely over, I see them still remaining ranked. So,
okay, so you say they'll be ranked. I say unranked. All right, we'll see. Another hot take that's circling the media right now is a group of 5 team that crashes the field. So a group of 5 team or a non kind of blue blood team is going to make the playoffs. I mentioned this earlier. Houston has a strong possibility under Willie Fritz to make the college football playoff. And then this is weird. I didn't know this. I had to look this up and research it. But now the predictions are that Louisville is going to play Miami in the ACC championship game. That's a prediction for the ACC. And they're going to beat Miami and make it to the college football playoff.
I could see that happening.
Very interesting.
I could see that happening. Louisville's not a bad team. They had a pretty decent year last year, and would they pull them up? Got to him a little faster. They play a bunch of scrubs too, but they got some tough ones. The really toughest games, first game of the year against Ole Miss. They do have Florida State in October, but that's at home, and at Georgia Tech maybe, but I think they have a down year compared to last year. Maybe the Pitt game at home could be tough, but yeah, I see them cracking through. That I could definitely see that happen. Wait, that's not a group of 5 team though, Matt.
Houston?
Well,
What conference are they in?
You said Louisville. I was looking at Louisville.
Louisville, they're in the ACC.
That's a group of 5?
Or a non-blue blood team.
Okay.
Houston would be group of 5. Louisville would be a not top tier football team.
Kind of like a dark horse.
Maybe like
team.
Boston, yeah, like a dark horse. Maybe like Boston
Miami.
College
I could see Miami taking a
something.
bit of a step back and or Louisville making that next step forward. So, yeah.
Your blue bloods in the
It's
ACC.
not too big of a hot
Florida
take.
State, Clemson, those teams. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, and then a little bonus. So, and you mentioned this team earlier, is a rebuilt or new staff SEC team that overachieves this year. And I think that's going to be Tennessee. They've got Jim Knowles as a new coordinator. Their defense is really good, and they could be even better this year, although it was kind of rough last year. But they're flying under the radar and could be a real sleeper here in the SEC, as you had mentioned, as kind of one of the top defenses.
Yeah, and they were my upset over Alabama.
Upset, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Possibly an upset game to look out for, sure. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee should be improved, and I just have to agree with what you said there, Matt. I don't really have much to add.
Okay.
on that
Well, we talked a lot today. This is going to be a long podcast, so if you stuck to the end, thank you so much for making it through our 26 college football preview. One of the reasons college football is so great is that every fan starts the season believing this could be our year. This could be the team that makes a difference, because believing makes anything possible. And honestly, that's definitely why it makes Saturdays special.
Yeah, we're probably wrong on half of these predictions. I mean, maybe more.
Yeah, but that's what makes it fun. We're probably going to be wrong on a lot of things. And we'll revisit this episode halfway through the season, at the end of the season, and see where we are and see if we got any of these predictions. And we'll also need to determine who needs to not ever predict these things again. Maybe it will be Kenny, maybe it will be me. We'll see. But that
maybe
is
neither
for
one
today's. Maybe neither one of us. That is all for today's episode of Life on Record. Like, share, and subscribe. And if you're new to the podcast, tell a friend, a family member, or a colleague about us. We just might make their day. Thanks for listening. Life on Record is written and produced by Matt and Kenny Compton. Music by Mr. Smith.